Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 117, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Nipiss Banner and Press is dated Friday, June the 3rd, 2022. And the front page has a beautiful picture of the Nipawin District Chamber of Commerce Fair, which returned after a two-year hiatus. A fair time was had by all. It made its return to the Ag and Fairgrounds May 27th to 29th. The event had been unable to happen in 2020 and 2021 due to restrictions related to COVID-19. Fortunately for this year, the fair could take place and was enjoyed by a large contingent of people. And it says on page 9 there are some other pictures of it. Plenty of activities made Nipawin the place to be over the weekend. Eager fairgoers explored the midway with rides, sang karaoke at Arts Forward with the theme focusing on Ukraine, attended plenty of yard sales with knickknacks such as holiday elves, and shopped at the book sale at the Margaret Lawrence home. The home had several tables chock full of books to choose from. One of the yard sales was put on as a fundraiser for Cats TNR and Rescue, pictured here. It was a hub of activity with several browsers and buyers inspecting the goods on offer throughout the day. Linda Desjardins, director, Dorothy Tague, secretary, and Martha Bennett, fundraising manager, were ecstatic with the amount of support received by the time the banner and press stopped by. And as you can see, there are a lot of rides and food trucks that were there. High winds create issues around Westman area. A blast of rain and strong winds hit the Westman area overnight Monday and into Tuesday morning this week. The unfavorable weather caused a number of issues, from power outages to downed trees. Pictured here, the grounds around Idlewild cabins in Wasagaming was littered with brush. And here crews worked to clear the roads of downed trees in Wasagaming on Tuesday morning. And here, on Tuesday in Nipawin, a large section of town was without power for much of the morning as Manitoba Hydro crews worked to restore service. Here is a hydro employee clearing tree branches that had blown into the hydro lines in Nipawin. Hope Food Drive bolsters food bank supplies in Nipawin by Kira Patterson. The Nipawin Area Collegiate NACI Hope Social Justice Group wrapped up their spring food drive this week. Last Thursday and Friday, the group went through Nipawin distributing empty bags with a list of needed items for the Nipawin Community Ministries Service, or the Salvation Army Food Bank. On Monday, May 30th, they collected the bags filled with food items. In total, they brought in 2,281 pounds and $125 in donations. WMCI to Hold Raffle, a public event early June, by Casper Werhan. June will soon bring the first day of summer. It also brings another raffle for the Industrial Arts class at William Morton Collegiate Institute in Gladstone. Similar to the 2021 raffle, select projects made by the grade 12 Industrial Arts class will be the big prize of the draw. This year's prizes are 2 hunting shacks and a bench, presenting 3 opportunities to win the raffle when names are drawn on June the 10th. According to Trevor Lang, Industrial Arts teacher for the school, that's not all the collegiate has planned. On June the 6th, WMCI is hosting its first annual Fun Day for the students. He said, we have a school barbecue lunch, a baseball game in the morning. We also have bouncy castles for the elementary students who come across to watch. A few other activities the students will be enjoying that day are tug of war, a slip and slide, and pie in the face activity. However, there is one key event that is open to the public that Lang wished to everyone. Starting at around 1:15 p.m., spectators can enjoy a bout of go-kart racing, an activity that Lang's grade 12 Industrial Arts students had a special hand in. He said, we'll be driving go-karts the grade 12s made. We'll be taking them down the field as a time trial. Those wishing to see the prizes of the aforementioned raffle in person will also be able to take a look at them at this time, as they will be out and on display for those who wish to see them. Raffle tickets can be bought until June the 9th by contacting the school at 204-385-2845. All proceeds from the raffle tickets will go into the Industrial Arts program to continue making neat projects, Lang enthused. So this is the bench that is up for grabs, along with 2 hunting shacks. And this is a picture of one of the go-karts that obviously was made by one of the grade 12 students. Okay. Come back to that later. Out of Helen's kitchen. This week's Helen Drysdale's article is entitled Milk and Cream. And in the picture here you can see, if you can see it, it's in the 1800s, cream was brought weekly to the local train station to be sent to the nearest creamery. Boy, that's an old picture. The first cattle in Manitoba came with the Selkirk settlers in 1811. However, the transport of cattle on the ships and the journey to the settlement was difficult, so few cattle were brought in. By the 1820s, the settlers were getting herds from St. Louis, and by 1851, there were 6,500 cattle in Manitoba. The cattle were mainly shorthorns, which were medium milk producers and good beef cattle with the ability to withstand Manitoba's harsh winters. In order to provide milk for their children and butter for baking, most pioneer farmers kept several cows. Any surplus cream was made into homemade butter and traded for groceries at the local storekeeper, while the excess skim milk was fed to the pigs. In 1880, W.A. McAllister of Stony Mountain created the first strictly dairy herd in Manitoba, consisting of Ayrshires. It was the first of many dairy herds to be established within the Winnipeg area. The Manitoba Dairy Act came in 1885, providing the basis for the creation of creameries and cheese factories. Before long, there were cheese factories and creameries built in communities. The first creamery in Nipawin opened in 1897. To keep the milk cold, it was put in cans and placed in the cold water of the well or placed in an ice house. Once a week, the cream was brought into the nearest town creamery or to the train station to be sent to a creamery. In those days, it was time-consuming to separate the cream from the milk. This process took time to gently skim the cream that rose to the top of the milk that was in large, flat milk pans. In 1877, Gustav de Laval from Sweden invented the cream separator. In 1885, Walter Clifford of Austin brought the first de Laval cream separator to Manitoba. By World War I, the cream separator was becoming common on farms. These separators made work faster and easier for the women to separate cream from milk without having to let the milk sit for a time and risk turning it sour. However, cleaning the cream separator was a tedious job with its series of ring-like funnels. As a child, it was often my job to wash the separator parts and scald them with boiling water. During the 1920s and 30s, crops were hit with rust, early frosts, drought, and economic depression, and the cream check became a vital source of income for farm families. Often, the cream check and egg money were the only source of reliable and available cash. It seemed to be the more children one had, the more cows were milked. As a 5-year-old, my dad started milking cows with his older siblings. It took about 15 minutes per cow to milk, if the cow was cooperative and you could keep the rhythmic double time going. As a little girl, my job was to hold the cow's tail so she would not swish her dirty tail in my dad's face. When you milked cows, there was never a day off. Well into the early 1900s, there was no system of checking conditions under which milk and dairy products were produced in Manitoba. Milk was not tested for disease or bacteria. Diseases from the cattle can be passed from cattle to humans. In Manitoba, the first dairy to pasteurize milk was the Crescent Creamery in Winnipeg in 1907. By 1918, testing for bacteria in milk had begun. Testing for tuberculosis in cattle began in 1920. Systems were being continually put in place to control sanitary conditions in producing and processing the safe milk we drink today. When you had your own milk, you put cream on everything. Cream in your porridge, cream to make your cake, and then, when served, pour it on top. Cream on your mashed potatoes, glorious cream. Today's dessert has a creamy custard filling and a caramelized sugar topping. Be sure to let the custard set for several hours in the refrigerator before bruleeing the top. Otherwise, you'll end up with a sloppy custard. And she puts in a recipe called creme brulee. I've never made that. Maybe I should try that. Okay, the Spruce Plains RCMP report by Corporal Jacob Stanton. During the week of May 23rd to 29th, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 50 police activities. On May 23rd, RCMP responded to a report of a stolen SUV in Minnedosa. The matter is still under investigation. Police received a report of assault in Nipawin. After investigation, it was determined that no assault took place and the matter was unfounded. Police were dispatched to a report of a dangerous driver near Nipawin. Patrols were made, but the suspect vehicle was not located. On May 24th, RCMP responded to a disturbance in Minnedosa where 2 males were said to be fighting. Both individuals were gone on police arrival. While conducting a curfew check in Minnedosa, police arrested a male who had an outstanding warrant with another police agency. Police received a report of a break-in enter to a property in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. On May 25th, RCMP were dispatched to a dump truck and a trailer rollover in Gladstone. The driver negotiated a curb incorrectly and rolled into the ditch. The driver was treated by EMS and taken to the hospital, and the truck and trailer were recovered and towed. Police responded to 3 abandoned 911 calls, one in the municipality of Harrison Park, one in the RM of Oakview, and one in the municipality of Westlake Gladstone. All were determined to be false. May 26, RCMP responded to a report of a firearm being discharged in Rapid City. The matter is still under investigation. Police received another abandoned 911 call at a property in the municipality of Westlake Gladstone, which was determined to be false again. Police responded to a report of mischief in Nipawin. There was insufficient evidence to proceed. RCMP on May 27th, RCMP received a report of a suspicious person in Nipawin. Police determined there was nothing suspicious, nor was there any cause for concern. Police responded to a report of a possible impaired driver in Nipawin. Patrols were made, but the suspect vehicle was not located. Police received a report of harassing communications in Nipawin. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. On May 28th, RCMP were patrolling in the RM of North Cypress Langford and noticed a vehicle struggling to maintain speed and stay in their lane. The vehicle was pulled over, and an alcohol screening test was administered to the driver, which resulted in a fail. The driver was arrested, charged, and released to a sober family member. May 29th, RCMP responded to multiple abandoned 911 calls in Manitoba, the municipality of Harrison Park, and Riverdale. All were determined to be false. RCMP conducted 9 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Now, Carberry, North Cypress Langford news. Holland wins gold. Jamie Holland, age 19, ended her club volleyball career with a gold medal in Division III Tier 1 at the 18 and under Canadian Nationals in Edmonton, May 21st to 24th. Jamie played middle for Coach Kevin Neufeld's BU Cats squad. They played 9 different teams and beat Volley Tech of BC 2-0 in the gold medal match. Tip of the fedora to Jamie. Here and There by Gladwin Scott. Senior baseball returned to Carberry after a 1-year hiatus due to COVID-19 Wednesday, May 25th, when the Santa Clara League opened for the 2022 season. Zane McConnell and Ethan Bjornsson shared mound duties in a 5-1 win over the Austin A's. Eric Truscott's 2-run double was the big blow. Russell Adrianson doubled, and singles were added by Josh McMillan and Truscott. Shortstop Dalen Creasy made a couple of fine defensive plays for the Royals. Back-to-back home runs by Zane McConnell and newcomer Carter Beatty helped power the Royals to a 7-3 decision over the host Ebb and Flow Lakers Friday, May 27th. Corey Billiard and Dalen Creasy shared the pitching duties. On Friday, June 3rd, Carberry will travel to Plumas and then to Portage to meet the Pirates on Wednesday, June 8th. Austin A's will host Carberry Friday, June 10th. Plumas is at Carberry Monday, June 13th, and the Royals host Ebb and Flow Wednesday, June 15th. Carberry travels to Nipawin Wednesday, June 22nd. All games are a 7 p.m. start. Joey Moffat and Ryan Botterill pitched the Portage Padres to a 7-0 win over the visiting Nipawin Cubs in their Santa Clara League opener May 25th. Plumas Pirates won 10-4 over Nipawin Cubs May 27th. In high school ball playoffs for the provincials in Brandon, June 2nd and 3rd, host Nipawin Tigers girls defeated the Carberry Cougars 8-2 on May 24th to advance. The Tigers used 3-run rallies in the first and fifth innings. Tanil Steen and Mia Lozinski crossed home plate for the visitors in the fourth. In zone action, the Carberry girls used a 5-run outburst in the first inning to down host Nipawin 7-4 May 17th. At Glenborough, Wednesday, May 25th, the Nellie McClung Stingers edged Pilot Mound 9-8 in the girls' fastball finals to qualify. Lefty Landon Gunnison pitched the Panthers boys to a 3-1 decision over Prairie Mountain in the finals, with relief from Wyatt Livingstone. Connor Lanigan clouded a grand slam homer in the semifinals. Carberry's Colby Weeb and Nate Robson played for the Panthers. The Portage Trojans edged Altona 20-19 in the boys' baseball final to qualify for the provincials. The Carmen/Miami at girls edged Portage to represent the zone at Ashley Neufeld Park in Brandon on June the 2nd and 3rd. In interzone girls play, Vincent Massey edged Hamiota 2-1 to reach the provincials. The Neepawa Invitational track meet was held Tuesday, May 24th, after being postponed from May 20th. Some Carberry athletes who qualified by standard for the provincials in Brandon June 10th and 11th are the following. Nathan Dick, the junior varsity boys javelin, came in first. Dylan Hood, junior varsity boys long jump and triple jump, came in first. Tyler Hood, varsity boys discus, came in first. Johnny Myers, varsity boys high jump, long jump, and triple jump, came in first. Hannah Polasek, junior varsity girls triple jump, came in 8th. Nate Robson, junior boys 100 meters, came in 3rd, and 400 meters came in 2nd. Carberry's golf team for the Prairie Mountain League includes Matt Letkeman, Joel Barron, Derek Semigalski, Braden Calvert, Kelly Marnock, Shane McCulloch, Warren Birch, Brady Adrianson, Corey Martin, Zane McConnell, Tyler Unger, and Greg Chandler. The historic Milk Run is back, which means 6 country fairs will be back in the 3rd week of July. Many of the fairs are celebrating milestone years. This year's Milk Run will take place from July 18th to the 23rd, beginning in Oak River on Monday, Strathclair on Tuesday, Shoal Lake on Wednesday, Hamiota on Thursday, Harding on Friday, and finishing with Oak Lake on Saturday. All fairs include classes for cattle, horses, and home living. At present, all fairs have announced a return offering full events similar to years prior. And lastly, R.J. Wow Elementary School sees staff changes. Staff changes at R.J. Wow School for the new school year involve head custodian Ken Allen, who is retiring after 24 years of service. Susanna Danilek, who has been with the school since 1994, is retiring as the school librarian. Quinn Melnick will be teaching grade 1 for Megan Traylor, who is on mat leave. Larissa Shuchuk will be teaching grade 1 until January 1st, when Kalina Green returns from mat leave. Blair McIntosh will teach grade 2 for Ellison Gansorek, who is on mat leave. Larissa Gray will teach grade 4 on a half-time basis. And more with sports, the Plumas Pirates spoil Nipawin Cubs home opener by Owen Devereaux. It's been a tough start to the year for the Nipawin Cubs in the Santa Clara Baseball League, as the club has dropped its first 2 games of the 2022 season. First, the Cubs were bested by the Portage Padres by the score of 7-0 on May 25th. Nipawin followed that up with their home opener versus the Plumas Pirates on Friday, May 27th. While the Cubs opened up the scoring in the bottom half of the first inning, Plumas would reply with 4 of their own in the top of the 3rd and then 3 more the following inning. They'd add 1 more in the top of the 5th to make it 8-1. Nipawin would make it an 8-4 score with 3 runs in the bottom of the 5th. Unfortunately, the Pirates collected another pair of runs for themselves in the 6th before the rest of the game had to be called due to rain. That would make the official score 10-4 for Plumas. Pitcher Zach Yando of Plumas picked up the win, striking out 6 Cubs in just 5 innings of work. He also helped his own cause at the plate, going 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs. Rylan Dembo went 1 for 3 with a pair of RBIs. For the Cubs, Craig Casto collected a pair of RBIs and went 1 for 3 at the plate, picking up a triple. The victory in Nipawin improved Plumas' record to 2-0 on the year, as they had previously defeated the Ebb and Flow Lakers on May 25th. Nathan Braun went 2 for 3 at the plate for the Pirates with a pair of runs and 3 RBIs. And also by Owen Devereaux, Titans Auto Protect pair of local players. The playing rights to a pair of local players have been secured by the Nipawin Titans thanks to the Manitoba Junior Hockey League's Auto Protect list. Every year, the member clubs of the MJHL have the chance to list up to 2 players from within their respective home zone. This year, the Nipawin Titans announced they would use their picks to select Yellowhead Chiefs defenseman Rylan Bray and Lincoln Murray for auto protection. This year's auto protect list contains a total of 7 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. Bray and Murray and those 14 other players are now no longer eligible for the upcoming 2022 MJHL draft. Last season with the Yellowhead under-18 Chiefs, Bray played 33 games and accumulated 11 points, 2 goals and 9 assists. The 16-year-old is from Nipawin and listed by EliteProspects.com as 6'2", 170 pounds. Murray, meanwhile, is also 16 years old and from Nipawin. He has a listed height and weight of 6 feet and 170 pounds. In 42 games with the under-18 Chiefs, Murray had 7 goals, 2 goals and 5 assists. With the Titans using both its auto protect spots, the team will not be able to select players in the 7th or 8th round in this year's draft as per the league rules. The 2022 MJHL draft is scheduled to get underway on Saturday, June 4th at 3 p.m. The MJHL champion Dauphin Kings put in a solid showing recently at the Centennial Cup, Canada's National Junior A Championship. The Kings finished in first place for their round-robin bracket with a 3-0-1 record, with their only blemish a 2-1 shootout loss to the Flin Flon Bombers of the SJHL. In their other round-robin games, Dauphin defeated the Ottawa Junior Senators 2-1, the Summerside Western Capitals 7-1, and the Sioux Thunderbirds 6-1. Those results allowed Dauphin to go directly to the Centennial Cup semi-finals, where they ended up facing the Pickering Panthers of the Ontario Junior Hockey League. Pickering won that game by the score of 2-0. The Brooks Bandits of the Alberta Junior Hockey League would ultimately win the event, beating Pickering in the championship game 4-1. Despite missing out on the national title, the Kings still received some recognition as goaltender Carson Sharapak was named Centennial Cup MVP and top goalie. The Canadian Junior Hockey League has announced that the 2023 Centennial Cup will be hosted by the City of Portage La Prairie and the Portage Terriers. Portage had previously been granted hosting duties in 2020, but that event was cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Portage previously hosted the 2015 event, then known as the RBC Cup. The Terriers ended up winning the final that year, which was the last time a Manitoba-based team has claimed the national title. All right, what else? Here we have an article written by or submitted by Wayne Hildebrand entitled Conservation Trust Funding Helps Sustainability of Prairie Ecosystems in Community Pastures. Manitoba Conservation Trust Program funding has granted over $1 million to the Association of Manitoba Community Pastures, or AMCP, to help maintain prairie grasslands and biodiversity in Manitoba's community pastures. The Manitoba Conservation Trust was pleased to partner with AMCP, said Stephen Carlisle, Chief Executive Officer for Manitoba Habitat Heritage Cooperation, or MHHC. The trust funding supports range management projects to provide healthy grazing land for local beef producers, as well as to protect and sustain natural prairie ecosystems. AMCP operates 19 community pastures totaling over 300,000 acres of range lands across 4 ecoregions in Manitoba. Conservation Trust funding helped immensely to support grassland habitat diversity and rangeland sustainability in the community pastures, said AMCP Board Chair Greg Jenick. The community pastures provide essential species at risk habitat across the province. The recent trust announcement of $400,000 for 2022 builds on 3 years of successful project work and is integral to promoting strong habitat stewardship. Trust-funded activities in community pastures are geared to projects that improve rotational grazing systems and livestock distribution. Projects include new water sources, cattle crossings, brush management controls, and new cross fencing. Well-managed grazing lands deliver a number of benefits, including a good forage production, resiliency during drought, improved habitat for species at risk, improved biodiversity, healthy soils, and good water quality, said Janik. The Association of Manitoba Community Pastures provides grazing services to over 43,000 head of livestock annually, said Barry Ross, General Manager of AMCP. The grazing lands also support some of the largest tracts of remaining mixed and tall grass prairie ecosystems in the province. Prairie is one of the most endangered habitats in Canada. There is less than 1% of the original tall grass prairie left in Manitoba, and less than 18% of the original mixed grass prairie, said Rachel Whidden, project manager of AMCP. As a result of habitat loss, research shows grassland-dependent wildlife species have experienced overall population declines by 44%. Last year, 14,000 acres of community pasture rangelands were enhanced through the support of Conservation Trust funding, Whidden said. In 2022, the AMCP has projected another 20,000 acres of pasture rangelands that will benefit from trust program investments. AMCP's community pastures are located throughout Manitoba at Alonza, Beeld, Birch River, Cote Saint Clara, Ellis Archie, Ethelbert, Gardenton, Pansy, Langford, Lenswood, Lebo, Macquarie, Mulvihill, Narcisse, Spy Hill, Ellis, Sylvandale, Turtle Mountain, and Wallace. The Conservation Trust Fund is held by the Winnipeg Foundation, and revenues are managed by MHHC, which is the Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation. "4-H Manitoba Communications Extravaganza" by Julie Labossiere of the Manitoba 4-H Council. On Saturday, April the 30th, at the Canadians Destination Center Polo Park in Winnipeg, 59 members of 4-H participated in the provincial 4-H Communications Extravaganza. These members had risen to the top through a series of competitions from club level to area levels across the province. Members competed in the following categories: Cloverbud, Junior, Intermediate, Senior, and Adult speeches. Cloverbud, Junior, Immediate, and Senior one-person visual presentations. An awards presentation followed each competition session. Approximately 150 people attended the Provincial Communications Extravaganza either in person or virtually. Thank you to the committee volunteers, Linda McCrae-Walker and Julie Labossiere, as well as the judges and other volunteers for a job well done. And we see pictures here of 4-H members that participated in the Communications Extravaganza, and here were the winners for the intermediate and adult speeches. Kelwood Market partners with Harvest Sun to bring weekly live music by Kira Patterson. The Kelwood Market is starting their weekly schedule for the summer this week and are adding some live music to the mix. Harvest Sun Music Fest has partnered with the market to supply musicians to provide entertainment at the weekly event throughout the summer and leading up to their festival on the weekend of August 20th. The Kelwood Market has been up and running on certain weekends since earlier this spring, but will now be taking place every Saturday through June, July, and August. On the weekend of the Harvest Sun Music Festival, they will have a 2-day market to coincide with the concert event, as one of the stages will be set up at the Kelwood Barn where the market takes place. This weekend will be the first market with music included, and it will feature artist Romy Mays. The full schedule of performers is still to be determined, but other musicians that will be performing different weeks include Jamie Buckborough, the Sturgeons, Fubuki Dako, Soul James, Jess Ray Eyre, Andrina Tureen, Mitchell Macoons, and Joe Curtis. As for the market itself, while it's too early in the season for garden produce, a variety of products will be on offer, from flowers to meat to candles, jewelry, honey, bedding plants, baked goods, and more. That sounds like fun. And here we have pictures from a farm gate market, which was a smash hit at Onanol. The Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve's annual Spring at the Farm Gate Market was held at the Onanol Rec Center on Saturday, May 21st. The market showcases local artisans and producers from around the Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve region. Close to 650 people attended the one-day event, which returned after a 2-year hiatus due to COVID-19. And here we just see a few pictures of what happened that day. Okay, so we'll go back. There's a page I missed. First, I'll read Homebodies by Rita Friesen, titled Blown Away. There was a time when the sound of the wind would call me. Walking into the wind, braced and striding, was an adventure. There was the time answering that call on a winter day. My neighbor was concerned that I was in distress and needed help. Nope, just pitting myself against the wind. I also used to enjoy watching a summer thunderstorm. Perhaps the determining factor in the changes is my age. Perhaps it is that I am more aware of the power of the wind and the storm, and my respect is edging over to fear. Whatever it is, these windy days do not hold the appeal that they used to. That adage, 40 days of wind if it is windy on Good Friday, has become the norm, which every spring is windy. I tire of corralling the lawn chairs. I really don't want to tether them nor haul them out every time the sun is shining, though this spring that would not be all that often. Between my garages, separating the lawn from the cement, is a garden bench / arbor. It is tall, possibly 8 feet, has lattice sides, and is quite solid and heavy. The wind from the north can actually topple the structure, though. So I have embedded fence posts painted white to prevent the falling. They do work, but this spring more than once I've had to hoist the beast back on the concrete after it is slid to the south. Alas, I am not happy about doing this. I am careful not to leave any possible missiles in the yards either. I would not appear dignified if someone witnessed my careening and pivoting, attempting to retrieve a fly away. Flying kites has always appealed to me. One needs a bit of a wind, not a hurricane, to have the kite dip and soar and dance. This takes me back to a fall day when my youngest was probably 6 or 7. I was busy, busier than I should ever have been, when she asked me to come fly the kite with her. I asked her to go and try by herself. But sometime later I glanced out the living room window from the room home on the farm at Riding. Out there in the neighbor's open field was my wee lass, the kite doing exactly what a kite should do, dipping and soaring and dancing. Needless to say, I set my tasks aside and joined her. Lesson learned. The sound of the wind in the trees still calls me. If one listens, really listens, one can differentiate between the sound in the evergreens and the sometimes greens. A gentle breeze has the tree sisters exchanging secrets, whispering quietly to one another. A stronger wind has them embracing and encouraging one another. And those gale force winds? Why, the whole forest family weeps as a member loses a limb or succumbs completely, the top broken and fallen, or roots up and exposed. They know the wind and all its moods and strengths. I am thankful that at day's end, snug in my home, the sound of the wind seldom frightens me. I have secured the perimeter. Let it blow. Now, Points to Ponder, Right in the Middle by Ken Medell. On this overcast, windy, and rainy Tuesday morning, when this column is being written, there is much to ponder. Seemingly endless days of rain have hampered crop seeding to a near desperation point. Some crops have been seeded in the area, but there are many thousands of acres yet untouched. Manitoba crop insurance deadlines have been extended, but are looming ominous on our very gray horizon. Over the past few years, overly dry conditions have hampered yields and water tables have been dropping. That would seem to be reversed now, as the fields are saturated at a level not seen for a long time. The aquifers should be recharged now, and that is a very good thing in the long term. Not sure how the crops are going to be seeded. Hopefully the Colorado low that came through with wild winds and rain Monday night will signal a major change in the weather. It's almost certain that man-caused climate change will be blamed for the weather patterns. The people who claim that didn't live through the 50s when fields were saturated, crop seeding delayed and sometimes denied, and wild winds and rains were a common experience. But then, of course, in the 50s, We didn't have the green movement to educate us as to how bad people are for the climate and for the world. They forget that without people, and lots of them, Manitoba would not be producing much food. You could only feed so many people on buffalo and berries. If that wasn't the case, the population of Manitoba would have been much higher 200 years ago. On the national stage, the federal Liberal Party is well trained in the never waste a crisis methodology of politics. They have chosen a tragic moment in history surrounding another school shooting in the U.S. to bring in more gun regulations. They are using the time-worn notion that if they pretend to control the sale of guns, that crazy people won't find a gun and shoot other people and often themselves. I am not currently a gun owner. When I had a farm and an acreage, I did own guns. I shot gophers, especially when they decided to move under my barn. I would have shot any animal that might have threatened to do harm to my family or my livestock. I shot the odd magpie or grackle, as I am of the philosophy that they can go live in the bush and leave the robins and other songbirds alone in my yard. All that said, banning any guns will not stop mass shootings. You don't ban cars because they can be driven too fast. You get the picture. We don't have a gun problem. We have a people attitude problem. The Liberals know that, but they also know they can pummel the Conservatives by escalating the debate about guns. They have no intention of banning guns. Most of them know gun bans gain votes, but not save lives. The federal Liberals will also use the ongoing debate in the United States around abortion rulings to beat up on Conservatives. There is a huge patchwork of rules about abortion in the States. What most people don't realize is that in Canada, there is no law against abortion. A person can abort a baby right up until birthing if they get a doctor to do the task. Most people are shocked when they hear that. It basically is not discussed enough, and that's the problem with the abortion debate. There is not enough rational and informed discussion. Demonstrations for and against don't shed light on the argument. They simply raise animosity on both sides. What is needed is a full and thorough discussion ranging from conception to contraception to adoption and other alternatives. Abortion will never go away. I have pondered this issue for decades, and there is no way it can be or should be banned. It should be much rarer than it is, though, of that I am certain. We know of what we speak, as our family has faced the issue several times over the decades, and if anybody wants to know what the experience has been, I can discuss it personally. If we stand back from any issue, large or small, the general philosophy should be that governments need to be invoked in some issues, but not in nearly as many as they are. If we are short of people in some industries, I can tell you where the workers are. They are stuffed into government offices doing tasks that are less than necessary and often harmful to the economy. So, as we ponder that the rain continues to fall in this part of the world and bombs fall in other parts, we need to take a deep breath and ask ourselves, how can we do things better? If we consult with God a bit more and depend on government a lot less, we would be better off, I think. The views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Nipawin banner and press staff. All right, so the last, I have a thumbs up, thumb down that I don't usually read, but thumbs up to KDF, the leader of the Nipawin Mixed Girl Guides group. Kay has been dedicated to the Girl Guides organization for 20 years, and without her leadership, the program would not be able to run in Nipawin. Kay teaches young girls valuable lessons like how to be a good friend, how to appreciate nature, how to give back to your community, and so much more. Kay is an excellent role model to young girls and such an asset to our community. Thank you, Kay, from Dana and Novalee Menzies. And the last article I'm reading today is by Neil Stroshine, Faithfully Yours, entitled Words for Those Who Follow. It was the opportunity of a lifetime for David. His enemy, King Saul, was sleeping soundly in a cave. So were all those who were assigned to protect him. David was standing next to the man who had sworn to kill him. What would he do? Abishai, the soldier who had snuck into Saul's camp with David, looked at the sleeping king and said, David, just give me the word and I will stab him through his heart. I will pin him to the ground with one blow. I won't have to strike him twice. But David refused the offer. I can't allow that, he said. He is the king. He is the Lord's anointed. God will destroy him, or his time will come to die, or he will be killed in battle. But my hand will not be lifted against him. The two left the cave, made their way past the guards, and were soon back in their own tents. The next morning, Saul was told that they had been there. His reaction shocked those whose negligence nearly cost him his life. This was the second time they had been caught sleeping on the job. It was also the second time David had spared Saul's life. Saul got the point. David was not a threat to him. Saul never threatened David again. David's words, which you can read in Samuel 1:26, 1-12, have come to mind many times over the past few months. I wonder how David would have responded to Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 U.S. presidential election, or to the signs seen and sentiments expressed during the recent truckers' convoy in Ottawa. I don't think he would have approved of their attempts to overthrow legally elected governments. Neither would St. Paul. His views on the topic are very clear. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, he wrote, for there is no authority except from God, and those authorities that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority resists what God had appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. But we might argue things were different in those days. Yes, they were worse. Saul had become a ruthless tyrant who murdered anyone he saw as a threat to him and his descendants. In St. Paul's day, Rome's emperors ruled the world. They tolerated no opposition. Revolts were put down quickly. Those who led them were put to death. Rome's message was clear: behave or else. Yet, despite the cruelty and injustice of which these leaders were guilty, David would not lift his hand against Saul, and St. Paul told his readers that they were to be subject to the governing authorities because God had put them in the positions they held. Those words are as relevant today as they were when St. Paul first put them on paper. There is nothing wrong with voicing our displeasure when governments pass laws with which we do not agree, nor is there anything wrong with criticizing leaders who do not obey the laws they pass, follow the rules they impose on the rest of us, or act in ways that embarrass our country and its citizens. But until laws are repealed or rules are changed, we are to respect those in authority and obey the laws they pass. This raises a final important question. How can we constructively criticize those in power without violating the teachings of the Scripture? That topic will be discussed in next week's column. So, that concludes this week's reading of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. So, bye for now.